Hello and welcome back to another week of Open Mic Night. It's Apple Week announcement, and you all know how happy that makes me. So stick around. We're going to talk all about the Apple announcement that happened yesterday, answer some of your questions, and also have a dang good time. So stick around. Let's have some fun. Alrighty, so like I said, welcome back to another week of Open Mic Night. I'm your host, Mike Weger. For those of you guys who have not joined us before, my name is Mike, like I said, and this is the Open Mic Night podcast where we discuss everything Apple. We talk about the latest Apple news, we do tips and tricks and stuff to help you guys out when you guys are using your Apple products. And this is one of the best weeks for you guys to join us because it's one of the weeks where there is an Apple announcement. And whenever there's an Apple announcement, that is a really good thing because there's a lot of fun and excitement around Apple. And so I like to basically take the entire presentation and cover what I think to be are the best parts of the show. So tonight we're going to talk about a lot of fun things because there was a lot of really good announcements that came out of Apple. So I'm extremely excited to talk about that. But first, I want to thank my sponsors, WLMN Radio. We stream exclusively live over at WLMNradio.com. I want to thank Roger and everyone over there. They're fantastic. If you guys are looking for any other sort of tech talk or music, definitely head over to WLMNradio.com and give them a listen. They're fantastic. I want to thank them for sponsoring. And also I want to thank Christian Johnson of Maple Grove Partners. My entire website of OMNpodcast.com is hosted with Maple Grove Partners. So they have amazing hosting for your website. Definitely go check them out. I'm happy to say that it has been over a month since we've had any disruption service. I think there's only been 2, and we have run solid for the last month. There has not been a single hiccup, a single drop of service for the last month. And I started hosting with them a month and a half ago. So Maple Grove Partners is fantastic. I want to thank them for hosting OMNpodcast.com. One of the exciting things about tonight is that the call-in feature is back. So if you guys want to call into the show, feel free. And if you guys are listening to this after the fact, we stream live every Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. Central Time. That's 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific. So be sure to come on out, join us live, omnpodcast.com/live. There you can join the chat room and you can ask questions, and you can also call in live during the show and we'll answer your questions. The only thing I ask, you guys keep it family friendly, but I know you guys will, so let's have some fun with that. But we are just going to kind of jump right into the Apple announcement. That's really all we're going to cover tonight. Obviously, yesterday was Apple's announcement on March 9th, and it was exactly what everyone speculated it to be. It was the Apple Watch announcement. But surprisingly, there were actually a few bigger announcements, and I wouldn't say bigger, but there were some other big announcements that they threw into this announcement that I think are not getting enough press. And so I want to tell you guys definitely about those. And so that's what we're going to start out with. So Apple opened up the show with an announcement about HBO. And it's an announcement that if you guys are HBO enthusiasts, if you guys like Game of Thrones and all of the great content that HBO produces, this might be exciting for you guys, and especially for you cord cutters out there. So HBO Now is a new service, and HBO is partnering exclusively with Apple. And HBO Now is going to be pretty much HBO on demand. So if you have an Apple TV, you are able to watch HBO Now for $15 a month. So you no longer need a cable subscription like you did in the past. You used to need to be able to log in with your cable provider, and that has to show that you subscribe to HBO. But that is not true anymore if you have an Apple TV. Now, what surprised me about this was we've been waiting for HBO to come out with an on-demand service for a long time, but I did not ever expect that they would stream exclusively with Apple. There's a lot of other set-top boxes that can stream. You got Roku and all sorts of, you got Chromecast, all sorts of different products that you guys can use, the Amazon Fire, things to stream the internet services to your TV. Now, Apple TV, not even being the most popular one, is the one that gets HBO Now. I think this is a huge, huge deal, especially for you HBO fans out there, because we never really thought that HBO would ever split away from the cable companies. The money they were making there was probably not worth it for them to ever go out and do a standalone service, but they have. It's $15 a month, which is affordable. I think it's actually, I think it's right where it needs to be. You're still more expensive than Netflix or Hulu, but you're not too much more expensive, and the true fans of HBO will definitely be willing, I think, to pay $15 if they don't have cable. Now, another thing is I actually do know a few people that only have cable for HBO. I know people who only have cable for sports, and then I know people who only have cable for HBO. And so now, especially for those people, if you have cable and you've been thinking about cutting the cord, like, I really like that HBO, if you could eliminate a $100 cable bill and only pay $15 a month, I think that's a huge, huge incentive. So along with this announcement of HBO Go, Apple kind of gave an update to their numbers on the Apple TV. There were some jokes going around on Twitter that I enjoyed when they were talking about the statistics on the Apple TV, is because they started talking about the Apple TV, and a lot of us have definitely wanted an update to the Apple TV. We wanted to see the next generation Apple TV, and they got us excited. They started talking about Apple TV and about HBO Now, and then no update to Apple TV. So the Apple TV is still the same Apple TV, but they gave us an update. So there's 25 million units sold of the Apple TV, which is a significant number, although the Apple TV has been around for a little bit. So that is not just the current gen, that's total Apple TVs sold. So solid number, but I definitely think we'll see those numbers go up with the addition of HBO Now, but especially because they also reduced the price of the Apple TV. So the new price is, I believe, going to be $69, which is down from $99. So, saving you $30 right there. And so it's more incentive to go out and get that Apple TV. Now, I'm not sure what the play was here on lowering the price of the Apple TV. I'm not sure if it was an agreement between them and HBO. HBO says, hey, if we're going to do this exclusively with you, you need to make your set-top box cheaper and more affordable. I'm not really sure why they lowered their price. I would also expect that they're going to be probably updating their line of Apple TV. There's going to be the next generation of Apple TV that's going to come out soon. And so I'm not sure if they're lowering the price, getting people more into the ecosystem and used to the Apple TV before they come out with their next big update. Because it is rumored that the next Apple TV will be your hub for the HomeKit. The Apple announced HomeKit, so apps that basically can control things in your phone, or in your home, rather. It can control your lights, your doors, your locks, your garage door. All of that sort of stuff is going to be able to be controlled with HomeKit. And the rumor is that the next generation Apple TV is going to be the hub where all that stuff takes place, which makes sense. You need some sort of device in your home to kind of be the center of that HomeKit, and Apple TV does make a lot of sense. So I'm wondering if they're kind of getting people in the door with the Apple TV, or if they're not even planning on updating the hardware, if they're just going to throw out a new software update. So this is a bigger incentive to get people in the door to the Apple TV, and they will already have the hardware when HomeKit comes out. So there's no barrier to entry if they've lowered the price and more people have the Apple TVs. There's a lot of different theories there. I'm not sure which one is correct or if any of them are correct. This is all just speculation on really why they lowered the price of the Apple TV. But I do like to think that it is because they really want to get people into the Apple TV before HomeKit takes off and before we really do get going with HomeKit and a lot of people are starting to use it. So they then started talking about the iPhone, and especially the iPhone 6. And they said that their biggest they're most proud that they have a 99% satisfaction rating with the iPhone. And honestly, I don't have any hard time believing that because I have the iPhone 6. I love it. Everyone I've talked to, including Mr. Jim Collison, my dad, people who were not Apple people before the iPhone. Both those people, used other phones and they're happy with the current iPhone. And so that doesn't surprise me because it makes me happy. I hear all good things about it. Everyone always has their little gripes about the phone, but a 99% overall satisfaction rating on the iPhone 6, you can only beat it by 1%, and that'd be hard to do. So probably the best number we could see out of Apple, and a good thing to see because, that iPhone 6, people really said that it was kind of Apple's make it or break it on their phone. They hadn't really innovated with the second version of the 5, the 5S, and the 5C, and the iPhone 6 really needed to be a hit for Apple is what they said. So seeing that 99% satisfaction rating, that's definitely a great thing for Apple. So Apple then moved in to give some updates on the iPhone, and some of these, this is the news that I think was not covered enough. It's news that I think is exciting and important and groundbreaking, yet is not going to get a lot of press. You guys probably are going to hear this maybe in passing about these updates to the iPhone 6 and to the operating system, but they're upgrades that I think are groundbreaking. And MKBHD out there, Marques Brownlee, he's a big guy on YouTube, great tech guy, and I really like him. He even tweeted out, that this stuff is groundbreaking. It's not sexy, it's not entertaining, it's not fun to talk about, but it's groundbreaking. So let's just jump right into what that is. First of all, we're going to talk about Apple Pay, which isn't one of the big announcements. They kind of just gave an update to it. CarPlay is what I meant. If we're going to talk about CarPlay, not too much in the CarPlay era of information, and not anything really new, except for that all major car brands did commit to offering CarPlay in their cars. So we've got all the major car brands on board. Now it's just time to see how exactly CarPlay is integrated into the new cars. So that's the first update. Number 2 is Apple Pay. Apple Pay is being accepted at a lot more stores than they were when they first started. They even made the joke that now they're going to start accepting the Apple Pay at vending machines. And so I know a lot of you guys have seen the vending machines with the credit card swiper. A lot of those have NFC built in, and those are going to start accepting Apple Pay. Some of them already do, but they're trying to get Apple Pay to literally be everywhere. And so coming to your vending machines, I've used it at Subway, I've used it at McDonald's. I think actually those are the only 2 places that I have used it in Omaha, but I'm sure it's going to be coming to more places. But Apple Pay people are liking it. People are really raving about it. The people I've heard that have used it have really liked it. They like they don't have to sign anything. Their fingerprint is their signature. It's fast. It's easy. You don't need your wallet. Now, the funny thing is about the Apple Pay is that as of right now, until everywhere starts accepting Apple Pay, I still need to take my wallet. So even now, a lot of people are like, well, I still got to take my wallet around. Yes, that's true. I use it because it is fast. It's more convenient than pulling my wallet out. But they are right. Until everywhere starts accepting Apple Pay, you still have to take your wallet around because you still need to use your credit cards at places that do not accept it. All right, now these next 2 categories, Health Kit and Research Kit, are what I was talking about. Are the groundbreaking technologies that aren't sexy, aren't fun to talk about, aren't really, entertaining at all, but they are very, very important to the future of health. And so they started talking about Health Kit and how Health Kit was a great stepping stone for them, and it was a great start. And people used the pedometer, and people were using the scales that could go with it, and people were starting to use Health Kit. But they said they didn't want to stop there with Health Kit. Health Kit could be more. And so they released Research Kit. So Research Kit is an entire new, pretty much app on your phone that is going to allow you to track extremely important and detailed information about your health. Now, Apple focused on a few of the major diseases. They focused on asthma, diabetes, Parkinson's, and breast cancer. So those were what they focused on. And what they focused on was the data that can be collected from your phone if you had an app like Research Kit. So things like for Parkinson's, they had the tapping where you could see, when you're tapping back and forth, and they could analyze if, tremors in your hand and stuff like that. And also you would say, they would analyze your voice. So you would talk into it and analyze your voice for variations. And that sort of data, I'm not a medical person, so I'm not really sure what the sort of data would mean. But that data is extremely important, and it's data that if you can be collecting from home and into your app, and then that information can be relayed to your doctors, or it can tell you something valuable, that's really important. And so they have partnered with a lot of the major research hospitals. A lot of the major research hospitals and medical schools are teaming up with Apple because they want to make Research Kit that much more valuable. So right now they have, some of the preliminary tests that you can do for asthma, diabetes, Parkinson's, and even breast cancer. But I'm sure this is only the beginning. And now that we have Research Kit, they say we have this sort of stuff from our phone. We have a powerful phone that has all sorts of sensors in it. And, these sensors in the phone could be useful for health information. So it makes sense, right? It makes sense for Apple to build Research Kit because, even for stuff like Parkinson's, if you are walking and leaning to one side, the iPhone can detect that with all of its sensors. So you walk a distance and then that data can be translated and sent into your doctor. So I was just extremely, extremely excited about ResearchKit. And then they dropped, I think one of the biggest announcements about ResearchKit that they dropped at the actual end of the conversation was that it's open source. Meaning this is not a locked down application just for Apple. This is something that everyone can collaboratively work on together. Open source meaning the source code is available and people can look at it, play with it, and build their own adaptations to it, and really start to put ResearchKit in the hands of people that can create really good things with it. You put this in the hands of other coders outside of Apple, and the possibilities really are endless with ResearchKit. And so, like I said, nothing fun, nothing sexy to talk about, but just imagine the possibilities of all of your sort of health data being able to be tracked by your phone. And we have these powerful computers with us all the time. Why not use them for something good like that? So ResearchKit is going to be extremely exciting. I'm excited to see where this goes, and especially the fact that it's open source. I want to give like a round of applause to Apple for making this open source. That makes sense, but this is, as far as I can remember, this is the first time Apple has ever done anything open source. I don't remember them ever offering open source on anything, but this is the exact right time to do it. Apple got it right. They're one of the first people to this market, especially one of the biggest, they're the phone manufacturer. They're not a software company. You could argue they are, but they are one of the biggest phone manufacturers, and they are focusing on ResearchKit. So I think this is just extremely, extremely important. All right, so after they talked about ResearchKit, they moved on and talked about a product that we actually did not expect to see an update from Apple yesterday. A product is the MacBook. So their laptop line, they're really, as far as I could see, there were no hints or rumors that Apple was going to be releasing a new MacBook yesterday, but they actually did. And so Apple started off with the statistics. They said, the industry for the last decade, Apple, the Mac, specifically the MacBook, has outperformed the industry. It's outgrown the industry for the last decade. So for the last 10 years, the Mac has outgrown the industry. And it also showed that last year, while laptop sales were down, the MacBook was actually up 20% in sales. And so they said, the MacBook is the one laptop, or not the one, maybe there's a few other, but it's one of the few laptops that is actually continuing to grow despite a slowdown in sales. And so they went on to talk about that, and then to our surprise, they released a brand new MacBook. Now, this MacBook is extremely, extremely thin. And for those of you guys watching the video, I'm actually going to pop it up here. And so if we go there. Okay, so when we were looking at this Mac, let's get over there and look at the new MacBook. Extremely, extremely thin, like I said. It is I think it is the thinnest laptop you're going to have, but the odd part about this laptop is there is actually only one port. And so you guys can see there, it kind of comes in that little silver color, almost a slate gray, space gray, and then it comes in gold, which honestly, I'm not too big of a fan of the gold new MacBook, but it's not for me, but it might be for someone else. But like I said, there are only one port, and see, Apple said one port. There's actually two. So there's two ports. There's the audio jack, the headphone jack on one side, and only one other port on the other side. And it is a port that we have not seen on a MacBook yet, and really it's one of the first times I've seen it in the wild, and that is the USB-C connector. Now this USB-C connector, let's see if I can pull it up here. So it's the new latest and greatest kind of standard in USB. And surprisingly, on this computer, the USB-C port is actually used for power as well. So you charge your laptop, if you want other USB devices, normal USB 3 or 2 devices to be connected, everything is going to go through this one USB-C port. And so again, Marques Brownlee did a great review, and he said, this is a stunning laptop, but except for if you ever need to plug any peripherals into it. If you want a second monitor, if you want anything else, then you're going to be looking at kind of a really thin, beautiful laptop that kind of looks like an octopus with all of its attachments coming out of one end. And so the laptop, the new MacBook, is really intended for kind of the content consumer, not the content creator, because it is not that powerful or that fast of a machine. You do get about 0.5 terabyte of hard drive space, and you can get up to 8 gigs of memory in the machine, but it is running an Intel Core M processor, which is a dual core monitor or a dual core processor. So it's not going to be a super productive machine. There's no i3, i5, or i7. It's an Intel Core M processor. So like I said, this computer is meant more for the consumer, checking emails, surfing the web, shopping online, viewing photos, that sort of stuff. But don't expect to do a lot of heavy lifting with this laptop. But it's not really expected. With a laptop of this size, it's meant to be more of a travel machine or a sit on the couch laptop, not really going to be your daily driver. But nonetheless, it is a beautiful laptop. And it's really, someone tweeted that the new Mac laptop is not for you, it's for the future. And kind of true, because what Apple focused on with this new laptop is it's all about wireless. You don't need wires for anything nowadays, so why would we ever, why is the future of laptops going to be with a bunch of connectors when everything is going to wireless? They said when you want to listen to audio, there's Bluetooth headsets. When you want to have a second monitor, there's AirPlay. When you want to do pretty much anything, there's a wireless option. Now, while I agree there are wireless options right now, I think that Apple's kind of banking on the next few years, those wireless technologies and those sort of things really start to take off more than they have now. Because I have an Apple TV, I have the ability to AirPlay, but I don't. My iMac is hooked up hardwired to 2 monitors because it's easy and because I don't want to use an Apple TV. That's just one more thing I have to have sitting on my desk. I could just run a cord. And so I'm kind of in between on really what market they're trying to target with this laptop. But I think, if you have a student going off to college who's going to be using it mainly just to listen to music, to type some papers, to do some research, it's not a bad option to consider. Now, it is still a little bit pricey, $1,300 to $1,600, depending on which model you get. That's a pricey browsing machine. And so for me, that's where I kind of I was like, well, if you're going to go on the lighter end, and if you're going for the consumer who's not doing any heavy lifting, that's a pretty high price for a laptop like that. But, when you have a laptop that is as good looking as this one, as thin, as light, and they packed this things with batteries. Some of the most impressive aspects of this computer actually aren't seen from the outside. They decreased the logic board by, I want to say, like 60-some%. I mean, it is tiny. The logic board is tiny. They took out the fan entirely. There's no moving parts in the entire laptop. And so, they went with that sort of pricing scheme, but you get an outstanding battery life. You get a really, really light, thin computer. So for some people, that might make sense. But that is the new MacBook, and that is what they announced as far as that hardware side. And then Apple started to get to the fun part of the announcement, which was the Apple Watch. And Jim Collison in the chat says, in gold for $10,000? No, that's a joke referring to the Apple Watch that we're going to talk about in a little bit. But no, the gold version of the MacBook is still only $1,299 or $1,599, not $10,000. If it was, though, I think that'd be a little bit overpriced. So, and he says, just so you know, I'm watching from my Surface. Just thought I'd let you know, which is fine. Like I've said in the past, although I'm an Apple fanboy, although I love Apple and talk about Apple, I'm fine with you Windows people out there as well, I guess. I guess we can all be friends. So, just want to mention again, if you are watching live, if you are listening to this on WLMN radio, or if you are listening, watching on omnpodcast.com/live, definitely, take advantage of the call-in feature. So that's going to be back from here in future weeks, but the number is 402-915-0790. So I know for you, WLMN radio, it's only audio, so I have the phone number up, but I'll repeat it again, 402-915-0790. So call in and you guys can be a part of this conversation if you have any questions about the Apple announcement. All right, so after they got done talking about the MacBook, they moved into exactly what we want to talk about, which was the Apple Watch. Now, I've talked to you guys and I've kind of been back and forth. If you guys have listened to the show since the Apple announcement happened, every week I seem to kind of have a different view on the Apple Watch. And now I'm kind of more solidified that I like it. I think I'm going to put my stamp of approval on it saying I like the product, but I'm also going to say that I don't think they're going to sell as many as people think. So first of all, let's just talk about the 3 different styles that the Apple Watch comes in. It comes in the Apple Watch Sport, the Apple Watch, just the normal, and then the Apple Watch Edition. And so the price goes from cheapest to most expensive, being the Sport being the cheapest, and the Edition being the most expensive by a lot. And so the Sport is going to start at $349. Now, again, for those of you watching video, I'm going to pop this up so we can take a look while we are talking about the Apple Watch. Okay, so here it is. And so when you look at the Apple Watch Sport, you'll notice that it's got more of the plasticky band. The Apple Watch Sport is intended for the runner, the one that's exercising, the one that's wearing this while they're working out. That is what the Apple Watch Sport is intended for. Now, it is a little bit cheaper, and I think that is going to be mainly because of the band. We're not going to see many features in the more expensive versions that are not in the Sport. The band and the material it is made out of. So this Apple Watch Sport is made out of aluminum or titanium. Titanium. I want to. No, silver aluminum. I was right the first time. I got to stick with my initial instinct. So the Apple Watch Sport is made out of aluminum compared to the Apple Watch, just the normal, which is made out of stainless steel, and obviously the Edition, which is made out of gold. And so you're going to get, your watch is going to be made out of some different material, and then the bands are going to be also made out of a different material. So I was actually sad to hear that you cannot put some of the nicer bands on the Watch Sport. I like the Watch Sport. I don't mind that it's made out of aluminum, but I was really hoping that I could maybe get the Apple Watch Sport price, but with one of the nicer leather or metal bands, but you can't do that. So that's really what we got to see from the Apple Watch, is we get to see all these little details. And if you go to apple.com and you click on the watch, you can actually see all of the different models they are going to offer of this watch and start to check out some of the bands. And I do have to say that the give me 1 second here. Okay, sorry about that. I thought we had a caller, but indeed we do not. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, I thought we cut out there for just a second, but I think we're still good. I think we're still streaming. I thought maybe it cut me off. All right, so, like I said, we started to see a lot of fantastic bands for the middle-of-the-road Apple Watch, just the regular Apple Watch. We've got extremely nice leather bands. We've got the metal bands. And the bands are kind of cool. They have like that loop that kind of, the way it clasps together is all with magnets, not with normal clasps. So they're elegant looking. I like the way the bands look. And I think I like the way the bands look a little bit more than I even like the way the watch works or looks. And so, I'm really excited about the bands, not as excited about the Apple Watch, but some of the features they were showing off were pretty interesting. And so when Apple kind of finished going over the look and the price of the Apple Watch, they did a little bit of, kind of playing with the watch and showing some of the features. But what was surprising to me about Apple in this announcement was they did not spend as much time as I thought talking about the Apple Watch. We were about an hour into it and they hadn't even started yet. And I'm like, man, this might be, a 2.5 hour presentation. But I thought that they really, really rushed the Apple Watch part of the announcement. And, that might be because they had already announced the watch. They have announced this last year. They feel like maybe they don't have as much news or anything. They're really only talking about prices and when it's going to be available. But, I also thought they could have gone into more detail about what you can do with the watch. But they did show off some really cool things. So some of the things they talked about with the Apple Watch, one of the things that stuck out to me was that there are going to be apps through certain hotel chains. And you think, okay, that's cool. I can view my reservation on my watch. But what the coolest part is since there's NFC in the Apple Watch, some of these hotel chains, their apps actually program your watch to be your room key. So hotel chains that use NFC as their locks in their door, you can just skip the checkout line or the check-in line. You can just, pretty much log in from your phone. It sends it to your watch. And when you get to your room, you wave your watch in front of the door and you have access to your room. So things like that are actually what I think the future of wearables are. A lot of people think when we talk about Apple Watch and wearables, we're talking about notifications and we're talking about receiving data on our wrists. And while that is a huge part of the wearable market, that's not where I think the focus is going to be in the future. I think right now, that is where we are focusing on wearables, is because that's really all we know. We think, okay, what could a watch be good for? Well, receiving notifications and not pulling out our phone. But when we start to see things like the hotel key and things like that, we start to see that there are more possibilities than just notifications for something like an Apple Watch or really any other type of wearable. And so they went on to talk about things like opening your garage door, closing your garage door, things that, they start to kind of hint towards HomeKit, which I'm thinking we're going to have a big announcement about HomeKit coming up. They never have said it. There's not really many rumors about it, But with the Apple TV announcement today, they started talking about opening and closing your garage door from your Apple Watch. I think we're going to have a big HomeKit announcement probably coming this summer, maybe WWDC when they do their big announcement in the summer. We might hear more about HomeKit, but there are a lot of references to it. So anyway, the presenter showed, though, he has a video camera, a live camera that shows his garage, and so he's able to pull that up on his phone, and there's an open and close button. So the example they gave was his daughter called in and said, "Hey, I'm locked out," and he said, "No problem, I'll open the garage door for you." So, things like that most people aren't going to be able to do right away when they buy their watch because it involves a lot of other equipment, but nonetheless, showing the future of wearables and showing really the future of what people can do with the Apple Watch. They obviously repeated some of the announcements as well. So they showed off, the heartbeat, how if I have my Apple Watch and so does my wife, she has a watch, we can send our heartbeat to each other, or we can draw photos to each other, things like that. But those are all repeats pretty much of the last announcement that they had last fall. So really from this announcement, we got the prices and the dates, which the pre-order for the Apple Watch goes on sale April 10th. So you can start to pre-order April 10th, and they will actually ship later in April. So we're actually not that far away from seeing the Apple Watch actually in person in the wild. So if you do want to pre-order the watch, it's going to be April 10th. And then, like I said, they will ship and be available in stores later in April. Now, we did talk about, and so did Apple, talked about the experience of the Apple Store, how that's going to change. So what I talked to you guys about a few weeks ago was that pretty much now with an Apple Watch, with a wearable, with a fashion item, you're going to have to retrain your employees in the Apple Store, and the experience in the Apple Store is going to be completely different. And Apple kind of mentioned that. They talked about how they plan on having all the different models in stock, and you're going to be able to try them on and really get the watch that fits you. Now, one of the biggest shocks, I think, to most people when they heard about the Apple announcement, and I talked about it a few weeks ago when I was predicting the Apple Watch prices, and one of the analysts was actually pretty much dead on with the price, even though the price to me sounded extremely high. The Apple Watch Edition, which is only going to be available in select retail stores, it's not going to be available everywhere, and it's made out of gold, is actually going to start at $10,000, and I believe the highest end model is $20,000. And that, to me, that was shocking, that $10,000 to $20,000 on a watch that is primarily technology-based. Now, I understand that there will be people that buy these. I understand that Apple is already a kind of status icon, and having Apple products is kind of a sense of pride. And for people who buy $10,000 and $20,000 watches, obviously they're not buying them for the technology. They're buying them as a icon, as a fashion statement, that sort of thing. But to me, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but if I'm spending 10 to 20 grand on a watch, I think I'm going to spend it on something a little more timeless than an Apple Watch, especially a first generation Apple Watch, something that's going to be probably obsolete within a year and for sure within 2 or 3 years. I think I might stray towards a nice Swiss watch that's going to last me for a long time and just be timeless and always just look amazing. But that's just me. And obviously, Apple does the research. Apple knows what their customers are willing to pay. And like we talked about a couple weeks ago, Apple already charges a premium for their products. Apple products are not cheap. They're not. Apple charges a premium for their products. And so a 10 grand to 20 grand watch, although surprising to some of us, that might shock us. Apple actually, they've stated that they're not making a lot of them. They're not even available at all the stores. So you never know. It might just be one of those options that we see, the big celebrities getting and stuff like that. But none of us normal people, I think, are going to spend that much money on an Apple Watch. So I was interested. After I listened to the announcement, I thought to myself, before the announcement, I was excited to buy a watch. I was like, that might be something I do. But when I started to hear about the prices and I started to see that really if you want anything beyond the kind of plasticky sport band, you're going to have to spend at least about $500. And so for me, I was like, man, $500, that's really not the price I was looking for. If it had been more towards the $300 price range, might be something you save up for and get, especially for me as a tech enthusiast. But for me, I really would want to go with a nice leather band. If I'm going to get a nice watch and spend good money, I want it to be something I will wear all the time in the office, at school, and stuff like that. So I would want one of the nicer bands. And so that one's going to start around $500. But I was interested how many of you guys would actually be interested in getting a watch. So I posted just a quick poll on the Facebook group, And the mass majority of people said they're interested in out of all 8 people that responded, most people did say that they actually they're interested in the watch, but probably will not buy it. And then the other people said really not interested at all. So that wasn't surprising to me though, because that's where I stand as well. That's where I voted, where I'm interested in the Apple Watch, but I just probably won't buy it. Probably because of the price, number one, and then I always like to wait for the second generation of a new product. So I would love to see this new MacBook in its second generation, seeing what new options it has, and I would love to see the Apple Watch and what they do with that in the next year. Now that brings up kind of my next point of what I wanted to talk about was with the price of these watches, with how expensive they are, I am actually skeptical on whether Apple is going to be on a yearly update cycle for their watch. They're on a yearly update cycle with pretty much most of their products, with the exception of some things like their Airport Extreme, their Airport Express, obviously not the Apple TV, obviously not some of their other computers. Their Mac Mini doesn't get an update. Some of them get internal updates, but not a big update. But I actually would be shocked if Apple did stick to a yearly update cycle for their Apple Watch. First of all, I don't see wearable technology being something that advances fast enough to have a yearly cycle. Second of all, people spend a lot of money on these products, and we're not sure actually if it might actually make people a little more mad if they're updating these watches on a yearly cycle instead of maybe a year and a half, 2 years, or maybe, I'm not sure when they'll do it, and I could be totally wrong, and watch, they'll end up going with like a 6-month update cycle. But that's just for me, that's what I'm thinking, is I think Apple might wait a little bit longer than a year, and the next generation of the Apple Watch really take all of the technology around wearables that happens in the next year and a half, and really, I think that will be the knockout product for Apple. I think the second generation Apple Watch is definitely something to pay for. And so, Jim in the chat room says, I totally agree with you. It's not timeless. And he said, although I did pay money for a Garmin 220 and I wear it every day. And that's true. There are these other watches out there that people have already paid money for. We saw the Moto. We see Garmin watches, which have GPS tracking in them. My sister has a Nike watch that tracks her running. It has the GPS built in. And people do spend a lot of money on those watches as well. And so you never know. But then again, for me, I don't know why in my mind, but for a watch, there still is the big distinction between $250 and $500. I mean, obviously it is. It's double the price. But there's just something about that price point. I think if Apple had brought it down a little bit, they might be enticing people a little bit more. For me, when I think of anything more than probably $80 is a lot for me for a watch. But that's because I'm not a watch guy, and I just don't wear too many watches. So for me, spending anything over $60 sounds expensive. So I'm kind of back and forth, but apparently according to the poll, at least for some of you that listen to this show, you're in the same boat as me. You're interested in the watch, but you're not going to buy it yet. And I'm right there with you. But like I said, let's wait around and let's see what Apple comes out with for their second generation and also what other companies bring up. I know this is an Apple show, but some other companies have had some fantastic wearables in the last few months, and I think those are only going to get better as well. So Apple has stiff competition in this market. For me, I think the iPhone is a superior phone. I think it's the best phone that you can have right now, but I don't feel that way in the Apple Watch sphere. I actually think they do not have the best wearable, but we'll see how it sells. We will see how it does, and I'll be interested to see the sales numbers after the first quarter. We might see those, we might not. Apple might group that into its other category that it's notoriously thrown these things into, and we never actually get exact numbers. But hopefully after this quarter of sales, we will see some sort of sales number, revenue, units sold, something like that, to get an idea on where they're at with the Apple Watch. And so that was really it from the Apple announcement. They closed pretty abruptly, and then they had people go and play with the Apple Watch and with the new MacBook. Now, you guys can head on over to YouTube and check out some of the videos. A lot of the people there posted videos and reviews on what they thought. Highly suggest Marques Brownlee, MKBHD on YouTube. He's my favorite, and he does a really good review, and you guys get a lot of good angles. He's all about the pixels. He has 4K video on YouTube, and so you guys can get a really clear image on how that MacBook looks and how the Apple Watch looks as well. So again, I want to thank WLMNradio.com for streaming all of my audio. They are fantastic. Thank you, Roger. Thank you, everyone over there, for supporting the show. And also to Maple Grove Partners, they host my website, and I want to thank them for a solid month of not a single minute of downtime, not a single second of downtime. I have a monitor on my site that will tell me whenever it goes down, and I have not gotten one of those emails. So fantastic web hosting as far as I'm concerned. It's Maple Grove Partners. You can check them out. If you guys want to help out the show, you guys can always do the Uyghur Tech Scholarship Fund. It is pretty much an Amazon link. If you guys go to UyghurTech.com/Amazon, that'll take you right to Amazon, and pretty much anything you buy, a very small portion of it heads back to me for sending you over there. And so I appreciate anything like that. That all goes into improving the show and making it better and stuff like that. One final announcement. If you guys want to listen to a fantastic general tech show, so if you kind of miss my general tech side, if you're like, man, he's focusing on Apple, but I want some of that general tech, join me this Thursday. This Thursday, I'm going to be over with Jim Collison on Home Gadget Geeks. And from here on out, I think maybe not next week, but from here on out, I'm going to be joining him as a co-host on that show. Jim has been running Home Gadget Geeks for, I want to say 4 or 5 years. Fantastic show, covers everything technology, brings on some great guests. And so that is going to be Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Central Time over at theaverageguy.tv/live, I think. I think it's /live, but just theaverageguy.tv for sure will get you there. Extremely excited to be joining Jim, and I'm going to have a lot of fun, so come on over there and join us. And like I said, it's a live show just like this. You guys can always get in the chat room and ask us questions. There's already what I'm excited for is there's already a fantastic community over there. So I would love for this Uyghur Tech community to go over there and, combine forces with Jim Collison's community, and I think that would be a lot of fun because I already like the guys over there. I've been on his show once, and the chat room was very lively. I have to give him that. He's got a very lively chat room over on theaverageguy.tv. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm excited to talk to you guys next week, but until I do, tech on.